All right, guys, welcome back to another video. I have tried to record this video so many times. I'm just going to be honest with you. The first video, it was perfect. It was like 20 minutes long. I was like, damn, that felt pretty good. And then I go to my video drive and there's nothing there. And I realized that on my keyboard, my number 1 button broke. And in order to start recording on OBS, I had to push shift 1. So I wasn't even recording the whole time. I was like, oh my God, no big deal. I'll just do it again. I did it again. And then like the second, third, fourth try, I was stuttering so much and I could not read the NTSB report. I was just losing my mind. And then like the 5th time comes around, I'm like doing good. And then my son comes up, starts pounding on the door, dad, 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 dad. And I just got so thrown off. So, okay, this is my 6th time making this video. This is it. We'll do it live. You know what I mean? Let's watch this video and we'll break it down. All right, guys? Okay, so I remember when I first watched this video, I automatically knew that it was most likely going to be a botched go-around. And that's ultimately what it was. Now, the reason for the go-around was kind of interesting. I think that deserves a conversation in and of itself. Something you guys should know too is that the student owns the plane. Okay, he has 250 hours. 250, this isn't like a commercial student. This guy is a PPL student. And he's had not 1, not 2 instructors. Most of us throughout our training, we go through like 3 or 4, maybe, hopefully just 1. No, this guy set the Guinness Book of World Records for the most flight instructors at 14 flight instructors. So red flags are going off in my head. Like, why does this guy have so many flight instructors? How does he have so many hours? Is he a good pilot? Is he just overly cautious? Is he just getting passed off from flight? Is he just unlucky? Like, what is going on here? Now, more often than not, when a student has this many flight instructors, it's for a reason. I don't know anything about the student, so I can only speculate so far. But in my experience, when I've seen somebody have, even like when a student's just getting passed around from instructor to instructor, it usually means that that student is hard to train, okay? Or just hard to deal with, or doesn't work well with others, okay? So there could be a number of reasons. But yeah, let's go ahead and read the NTSB report. Hopefully I can read. All right, for some reason, every time I open up an NTSB report, my reading level goes down to like 6th grade, and I struggle with basic English. I almost read like English is my second language. It drives me nuts. All right, analysis. Actually, let's start at the location. So it was in Hanson, Massachusetts. It was December 23rd, 2019, 1400 local time. Piper PA-28 defining event was collision during takeoff and landing, so botch go around. This is a Part 91 General Aviation Instruction. Injuries, 2 on board, but no injuries, which is amazing. Aircraft damage is substantial, which probably means that plane is completely done. And for those of you guys who want to look at the ADSB data, because I always find that interesting, it's tail number 5792 uniform. Analysis. The flight instructor reported that the student pilot was landing on the 1,760-foot runway and flared above the numbers. The airplane floated halfway down the runway, and he instructed the student to initiate a go-around. With about 1/4 of the runway remaining, the flight instructor was concerned the airplane would not have sufficient airspeed to climb above the tree line. He took control. I can hear my kid outside my door. If any of you guys have toddlers, like just doing anything is impossible. He took control of the airplane. This is what you get when I'm unscripted and I'm unedited. Like, you're going to get toddlers screaming in the background, okay? It's Chuck E. Cheese in my house. All right, he took control of the airplane and landed in the grass field past the end of the runway. The airplane came to a stop in the mud, the nose gear separated, and the airplane sustained substantial damage to both wings and the firewall. The student pilot reported that the airplane was, quote, climbing out normally when, quote, without any warning. The flight instructor took the flight controls. He reported that the instructor quote, completely lost control and was very excited, end quote, whatever that means. Airport surveillance video showed the airplane begin to climb out, then abruptly descended towards the runway. The flight instructor further reported that there was no pre-accident mechanical failures or malfunctions with the airplane that would have precluded normal operations. Probable cause and findings. The National Transportation Safety Board determines that the probable causes of this accident are the flight instructor's delayed remedial action, which resulted in his decision to perform an off-field landing, and the airplane's subsequent impact with the terrain. So obviously they're going to pin this on the CFI. That's just what happens. Your PIC, right? This is your fault as a CFI. Okay, let's go ahead and go on to the narrative. So I like this part, the narrative history of the flight. All right, this is from the perspective of the flight instructor. All right, so we'll blast through this real quick, rewatch the video, and I want you guys to look at the airport and we'll draw some conclusions from there and kind of have a conversation around it. So on December 23rd, 2019 at approximately 1 p.m., myself, John DiMarzo III, and my student Robert L. DiNardo departed Mansfield Municipal Airport, which is 1 Bravo Niner, and a PA-28, tail number is that, and departed for a local practice area. We went to Plymouth PYM and did a touch and go on runway 28. Upon departing, we decided to go to Craneland 28 Mike, which is where the accident actually happened. We decided to select runway 36 at Craneland. The windows at PYM were favoring 24 at Plymouth near the coast. I also kept in mind micro-meteorological conditions that occurred at Craneland. We observed that ripples in the water in the surrounding lakes, and there was a direct crosswind across both runways. I thought runway 36 was still a good, they have spelling errors in these reports sometimes, it's really weird. I thought runway 36 was still a good choice because I knew we had 300 feet plus of grass ahead of the runway in case of a mishap. But I also noted about a 20-foot cliff with 60-foot trees on top of it at the far end of the infield. Our first attempt at a landing resulted in a successful go-around, and on our second attempt we came in to land and began to enter the flare above the numbers of the runway, and halfway down the runway we still had not touched down, and I noted the excessive float and took a look out the window, and he saw the airport tetrahedron, which is the wind direction indicator. It seemed we now had a tailwind, so I told my student to do a go-around. The student initiated the go-around, and instead of pitching the nose for airspeed, meaning down for airspeed, he mistakenly raised the nose up with the intent of climbing. The airplane did not establish a climb, but instead bled off to 60 miles per hour. Rotation speed of this particular aircraft is 65 miles per hour, with the VX climb of 74 miles per hour. I knew that we were much too slow with 1/4 of the runway remaining with little to no climb established. I looked ahead at the cliff and saw the trees fast approaching. The tailwind and lack of energy in the airplane resulted in my decision to take controls of the aircraft. I was no longer interested in attempting to re-energize the aircraft and attempt a climb over the trees with insufficient distance. I was now concerned with saving my student's life as well as my own, so I pulled the power back immediately and landed in the grass section of the airport ahead of the runway. The nose wheel of the airplane broke off because of how soft the mud was and the grass in the field, and the prop stuck into the ground. Upon exiting the aircraft, we noticed we indeed did have a tailwind at the time. We came to a stop in the grass. About 40 minutes later, we were driven to the hangars at the airport and had a closer look at the windsock, and the windsock yet again shifted to favor runway 36. And then this is his closing notes here, right? I stand behind my actions. My student pitching excessively on rotation and go-arounds has been a running problem that was recently getting better. Although the airport presents challenges with an 1,800-foot runway, the student had me convinced, this was his mistake in my opinion, that he could handle and I don't think the CFI would disagree, by the way, that he could handle the airport having been based there previously. Taking this into consideration, I do believe I saved our lives by simply landing the airplane in the grass, despite the opinion that we might have made it by making a turn over to the left with shorter trees and houses. That is not a standard practice. Also, as far as the pitch attitude, bleeding off airspeed on a go-around, I had in my head the student in CFI in Mansfield about a year ago out of a flight school in Norwood that died because the student pitched excessively during a go-around and the CFI didn't recover. So my first action was to pitch the nose of the airplane over and attempt to regain energy. But with a 150 horsepower motor, insufficient wing compared to other aircraft, the airplane was not going to climb over the trees. So the instructor is dead on saying that there's no way that he could have made it over the trees. I mean, and given from his perspective and from his experience, I don't know how experienced the CFI is, he may as well could be very right. I am employed as a CFI at Bridgewater State University after completing their 4-year aviation degree program successfully. This particular student has been through 14 CFIs and about 250 hours and still has not been signed off to take his private pilot practical exam. And probably I'd be shocked if this guy ever became a student after this, to be honest. All right, so a couple of things here. He said right here that the student had said that he's been to this before and he had convinced me that he could handle this airport. But then he also states here that go-arounds has been a running problem. So I'm thinking if you're landing at a short runway that has obstacles, that would be the last place I would take a student who is struggling with go-arounds. So that was my first thought. Secondly, you know, like I said, if a student came to me with 14 previous CFIs and over 250 hours, I would also not be super willing to take that student on. All right, as we move forward through the NTSB report, this is the recommendation of how this accident could have been prevented. And then he said, as a CFI, I should not have been willing to conduct flight training at an airport such as Craneland, which we all agree on. As a result of this accident, I have established new personal minimums while giving instructions such as, I will not conduct flight training at any airstrip less than 2,200 feet. I will elect to initiate a go-around if the main gear has not touched down if we exceed 1/3 of the runway, which is also very similar to my personal minimums. Further, I have conducted short field standard flights with my full-time employers to regain my confidence, reinforce my decision-making skills when operating at airfields that are less than 2,200 feet. So that's a small runway, okay? Craneland, I was looking at this on 4Flight, and Craneland is a tiny airport, okay? If we pull this up here, the actual runway distance is 1,760 feet long and only 60 feet wide. That's tiny. To give you some perspective, I fly out of a 5,500 foot runway. Boise, where I also fly out of, that's a 10,000 foot runway. Okay, so this is tiny. This is a tiny runway. So you don't have a whole lot to work with here, all right? And then I looked at the video, and I think one of the, if I'm the skeptical part of me, which is probably the unfair part of me, I will admit, was asking myself, I was like, did this even need to be, did this have to go into the grass, or could he have made the trees? So I was looking at this video. If we go back and watch this right here, I want to ask you guys, do you think that if this were you, and be honest, all right, would you have put it into the dirt to prevent yourself from inducing a stall spin over the trees, or would you have put the nose down in order to gain more energy in order to climb over those trees? Meaning, would you have built up airspeed in order to trade it for altitude? Or do you think with this given pitch attitude, do you think that you could have made the trees no problem? So I want to hear your guys' professional opinions or your guys' speculations. I don't care what level you're at. If you're a brand new pilot, if you're a 10,000 hour pilot, what would you have done in this situation? Because when I watch this again, all right, I wish the full video was here. Because when I watch this, they start the go around right abeam the tetrahedron, okay, which is right here. All right, so the tetrahedron from here to here, and there could be an illusion too, but this is only 0.1 miles, okay? It looks like they still had, how much runway left? 0.3, so yeah, they started to go around right here, which sounds like it's probably, this was the correct action, I think. Now, the conversation is to be had of, do you think that the CFI was, I don't know, do you think it was a good idea for him to put it into the ground? I really want to know. I really want to know. Because I'm sitting there and I've been reading Stick and Rudder by Wolfgang, and he gave a scenario exactly like this. He said that if you were climbing out and you're approaching trees, and I'm not saying to do this, guys, I'm just saying this is what Wolfgang is saying in his Stick and Rudder book, and you should talk to your CFI about this. I want to be very clear. But he's saying in this scenario, what an experienced pilot would have done, an experienced pilot, okay, or what Wolfgang would have done, is he would have pitched the nose up right here, all right, and then he would have either A, used ground effect to build up speed and energy, and then used that speed and energy to to trade it for altitude. And then he would have pushed the nose down when he gets over the trees in order to regain that airspeed. Or what Wolfgang says he would have done is rotate, take off, maintain this pitch attitude, put the nose down, gain speed up to the trees, and then close to getting close to the trees, pitch up, get over it, put the nose back down, regain that airspeed, and climb away. So I'm reading Wolfgang's book, and I just couldn't help but draw comparisons between these two scenarios because he talks about that. So we'll leave it with that. What would you guys have done? Do you think this was proper remedial action? I want to hear you guys' opinions, okay? Whew. I'm so glad I finally got through that video. It took me like 6 times. Anyways, guys, that's it. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you for the next one.